What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Lombardi Time Brews Live, where I'm your host, John Delray, and this is Claudia, partner in life, partner in pod. We're here on this Friday edition to talk about anything that comes up Green Bay Packers. One of the things that I can tell you about is the fact that OTAs are coming. Yes, organized team activities officially begin on Monday. And I don't know. In some ways, the offseason feels like it's been dragging. And in some ways, it's like, oh, holy crap, we're at OTAs already. Cool. Now, OTAs, for the most part, are voluntary for players. In fact, you might have seen headlines about Jordan Love actually asked the Packers if he could miss a voluntary OTA so that he could see his, I believe they're still girlfriend,
No, I think it's fiance.
Fiance? Okay, I'm sorry. Personal life stuff. I don't follow that, but to participate in her volleyball tournament. So, these are all voluntary up until a 3-day mini camp, which then is mandatory. Now, you may be wondering, yes, there are several players that have clauses in their contract, workout bonuses, attendance clauses where they get extra money, etc. I'm going to cover all that on Monday as I'm discussing OTAs. So yeah, there are several players, but technically speaking, these are voluntary workouts until you get to that mandatory camp. And if you're wondering the dates, the Packers have not said that any of these are open to the public. They didn't make any open to the public last year. I don't think they're going to this year. But nonetheless, these are the dates: May 20th and 21st, 23rd, 28th, 29th, and then 31st, and then June 3rd and 4th, 6th, and then June 11th to the 13th is the 3-day mandatory minicamp where I would expect the Packers are going to do some full-on scrimmages and everything. So we're getting there. It's actually beginning to look like a team a little bit. Ayahuasca data scientist, what's up, my friends? It's been a while. Just want to drop in and say hello. Ready for training camp? It has been a while. Thanks for dropping in. And yeah, oh man, I cannot wait to get back. I think actually, because if you recall, I know you were around a lot last year during the training camp stretch and everything. Like I did recorded videos after a camp. I think what I want to do this year is go to every single practice I can and then go live right after practice. Find a little spot in the park again like I did last year and weird people out. Scare the crap out of a Packers tour guide like I did once last year. But nonetheless, I think I'm going to go live every single one this year. So check it out.
Janelle.
What's up, Janelle?
Goes during mandatory minicamp.
You enjoy, Janelle. I think you're going to enjoy your time a lot more than a lot of the Packers players are. But that sounds like a good time. So since last time we saw you, we also know all of the preseason dates, now the 3 preseason games. And in case you're wondering about, are the Packers going to be doing any joint scrimmages, practices, etc.? We don't know that yet, but based upon their tendencies, we can at least level a guess. So we do have those 3 preseason games. If you haven't seen it yet, here they are.
Yeah, so we start out on August 10th in Cleveland at 3:25. Then on the 18th of August, we are in Denver at 7 p.m. And then the last preseason is on the 24th of August at noon in Green Bay going against Baltimore.
Yeah, and actually, frankly, I love Baltimore being the last preseason game because think about the first 2 quarterbacks the Packers are going to face in the regular season. Week 1, Jalen Hurts. Week 2, Anthony Richardson. Will we see Lamar Jackson in the final preseason game? I don't know if we will at all, but you would think that Baltimore for that final preseason game is at least still going to run their preferred offense. So it's not a bad little primer, little get ready, even for the Packers depth defenders to be going against them in the final preseason game and then get into the regular season where you've got these mobile quarterbacks to start off the season. So I really like that nice little wrinkle in the preseason schedule. And then I also said that today I would be going through the Packers games and giving not real thoughts about it, but just win-loss record. Because somebody asked me about okay, so what are they going to do in the schedule? I got it. All right. So they start off the season week 1 at Philadelphia in Brazil, technically at Philadelphia, right? I think the Packers walk out, get a W. Week 2, Indianapolis, their home opener in Lambeau. The young Packers are going to be jacked for that game. They get the win against Indianapolis. At Tennessee, week 3, win there. And then week 4 at home against Minnesota, win there. So start off the season 4-0 in my mind. Then week 5, they travel out to the Rams. And I covered in the schedule reveal video, The Packers' last loss against the Rams came when they went out to LA. It's not nearly the boogaboo that it's been in the last couple of years, but like the Packers under LaFleur still do not have a great reputation for going west. So week 5 at the Rams should be a much improved team, even without Aaron Donald. I think they might fall into a little bit of a trap there and fall against the Rams. So now you're sitting at 4-1. Then the next week at home against Arizona. I think that's going to be a win. Better be a win. And then the next week, noon game against Houston. I think that is like, that would not shock me to be a loss at all, putting them at 5-2. Just so you can follow along. There it is. Then week 8 at Jacksonville. That should be a win for Green Bay. Week 9, Detroit at home against Detroit. That one might very well be a loss. And then they go into their week 10 bye. Then after that at Chicago, that should be a win. It was like, I know, like Hebels noted, it was nice of the NFL to give the Packers 2 straight bye weeks. I agree. So they pick up a win there. Then the next week against San Francisco, I could very well see them winning this game this time around. Keep in mind, they controlled the game against Frisco for like 58 of the 60 minutes. I think they're going to be ramped up for this. I think Jordan Love and company are going to be eager to kind of excise that demon, if you will, and pick up the win. But then 4 days later, they take on a very tough opponent at night, Thanksgiving night, against the Miami Dolphins. And yeah, that coming off of the high of victory against the Niners, then they may very well fall against the Dolphins. Then the next week at Detroit, Thursday Night Football, they'll be re-ramped up, pick up the win against Detroit. The next week, Seattle. Seattle's another place that they've struggled to play. They may have some difficulties adjusting to Mike McDonald's new Seattle defense as they're going multiple. I could see that being a little bit of a trap there. Then you got Seattle or New Orleans, Monday Night Football. Packers should pick up that win, as New Orleans is not what they once were. At Minnesota should be a win, and then Chicago win as well. So they cap off the season with 3 straight wins. They open the season with 4 straight wins, and ultimately wind up with a record of 12-5. That's what I said during the draft. I see them going 12-5 this year. The schedule didn't really hurt that prediction one bit, so I'm going to still go with 12-5 for the Packers season. Hello, Peter. Bonjour. How you doing?
Says, hello, Jon and Claudia. I hope you're doing fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have the growing feeling Jordan Love could be the very first $60 million quarterback in the league next summer.
Yeah. So, I mean, in case people haven't seen it, just to get you up to speed, Schefter came out this week, Adam Schefter of ESPN, and said, like, to his knowledge, the Packers and Jordan Love are not close on a new contract agreement. Okay. Like I said once upon a time that I'd be surprised if they get out of May without having it done. Yeah, all right, maybe back that up a little bit now. But still, like, we know the Packers and Jordan Love's people have had several conversations. We know that Jordan Love is feeling like, hey, other quarterbacks are getting a bunch of money. Look at the Jared Goff contract that just got handed down. I want to get paid too. I bid my time, then I played great. I should get paid. And the Packers are going, we want to pay you. We got to keep in mind, we got to pay everybody else too. Now, to address your comment here, Peter, maybe in terms of like his actual compensation next year, sure. What I kind of see playing out is the contract gets done this summer. I don't think Love or the Packers want to go into next season with Love in the final year of his deal. Yeah, they hold the franchise and all that stuff. I don't think either party wants that. So I think what we're going to see is sometime this summer, and I still do think sooner rather than later, we see the Packers agree to a contract with Love that at least kind of matches the Burrow contract, $55 million a year annual average, tied for, will it be a tie? No, but I'm saying like right there with it for the most lucrative contract in NFL history. That's what I see happening. I don't see it going all the way into next year, nor do I see them really touching 60 in terms of annual average. Because keep in mind, that's $5 million over what's already the highest record. That would be kind of insane, to be frank, to like jump it that much. I see them being right around 55 is where they're going to wind up. Maybe Love gets to claim highest paid ever. Maybe he doesn't care that much about that detail, and the Packers can skate by with 54 or something like that. But it's going to be like mid-50s. It's going to get done sooner rather than later, in my opinion. That's what I see coming. And it's kind of how the Packers have operated. They're willing to make people the highest paid. Not by a mile, though. And so we'll see. And plus, they want to get that up.
Whiskey 61 saying, did you see that Goff's contract wasn't the 52 per year reported, but actually 47.1
Right.
per year?
And it was 47.1 because like the 52 would have been new money on top of the money that he had already agreed to at Detroit. Instead, it took into account that money, and that's how you get to 47 a year. Still, though, for Jared Goff, 47, it's still quite hefty. And when you take into account that Jared Goff has not, granted, small sample size, right? But Jared Goff has never had a half season like Jordan Love just did. Jordan Love and David Muguleta, his agent, they're going to look to go clear over that for sure, in my mind.
Rocket News saying, yo, John and the wife. Hello, Rocket News.
Hello.
I think we will improve by 3 to 4 wins. I just feel like there will be a 3-game losing streak in the middle of the schedule. We will rally just like last year and finish strong.
Yeah, I mean, a 3-game improvement gives them 12-5. Right? Which is, that's what I rattled off earlier. I think that feels right because ultimately at the end of the day, the Packers are still a young team. Like there's still going to be bumps in the road. There's still, like you say, maybe a midseason slump even. I think it's possible. Looking at the schedule, I don't really see like 3 games in a row that they drop. Maybe the best case for that would be like Frisco, Miami, Detroit, all back-to-back in that 3-game stretch. Maybe Miami, Detroit, Seattle, but then you're getting kind of close to the end of the year. So like, I very much get what you're saying. They're definitely a young team. They're going to have ups and downs. I still think 12-5 is incredibly realistic. I don't know. I think their losses may come in more like a win-loss back-to-back format as opposed to like this big skid, but we'll find out. It's going to be a fun year. There's no doubt about that.
Gypsy Mike saying, good afternoon, Jon and Claudia. In my opinion, we probably only lose to Miami.
Woo!
The Thursday night game will be after a short week, and we may take them for granted as an easy win. Hopefully, we're 17-0 though.
Amen.
I would not be mad with the 17-0.
No, not even a little. That's what I rattle off too. I just think, like, let's say that they excise the demon and beat San Francisco, and then 4 days later, you've got Thanksgiving night, in Lambeau, but still, it's only 4 days later against one of the fastest teams in football in Miami, and they match up okay against Miami, but like Miami's no slouch. And I know you say like maybe take them for granted. I don't know as if it's just that as so much as like they'll be coming off of the high of Frisco, or like, I don't know if taking for granted is the right, just maybe they just can't get themselves up after 4 days, whatever, what have you. I could see Miami as a big letdown in Lambeau on Thanksgiving.
For once, I
pretty
might
inclined to
actually
agree.
hope for snow on Thanksgiving and freeze the Dolphins.
I would go with that totally.
I never want
100%.
snow.
Well, and that's one of the things. I think I talked about that in the schedule reveal. Like, of all the times to get Miami and Lambeau, Thanksgiving, when the air is turning, when it's starting to get cold, yes, bring up all the South teams in December. Just like New Orleans, like Green Bay and New Orleans. New Orleans has been a trap for Green Bay several times over the years. Well, now we're bringing them up in December? That is so much more favorable than if they would have wound up with New Orleans in September. So I really like how the schedule laid out for Green Bay. And as I said, the schedule reveal video, this is the first time that the Saints are going to play in Lambeau Field in December since 1973.
Bring your hand warmers.
Love it. Love it. Bring them all to Deep South in December.
Rockney is saying, I was watching the highlights from last year. Christian Watson made plays in the big wins against Chiefs and Lions. If he doesn't have a big year and stays healthy, this might be the end of Watson. Also saying, I don't see us re-signing him.
Yeah, so he has to stay healthy. Yes, 1,000% agree with you. There is still not another receiver on the Packers, very few in the league, frankly, that can match what Christian Watson can do. Yeah, right. And I know you were watching highlights and everything, but keep in mind, even when Watson wasn't fully healthy last year, or the games where he had like 2 catches and they weren't statistically spectacular, he was still garnering so much attention from the over-the-top safeties that it helped open up everything else. Now, with that being said, he does have to stay healthy. He has to prove to the Packers that he can actually be on the field. He's entering year 3. So if this year is kind of up and down health-wise, then no, an extension next offseason probably isn't the most likely. If he stays healthy all year and really proves it that the injury problems are behind him, then I could see the Packers going to him next offseason saying, hey, we'd like to lock you in before you have another full season of production. But it so much depends on his health right now. In a similar vein would be even a player like Eric Stokes. Yeah, they declined his fifth-year option, but I think the Packers are still really high on him. And if he proves health all year long this year and becomes the corner that they drafted in the first round a few years ago, then maybe they go to him. I know he'll be a free agent at the end of the year, but maybe they go to him about a new contract for Stokes, kind of in the same vein. But these are two guys this year that have got to prove their health in order to lock in future guarantees. I do agree with you on that strength. But I will say too, like just to counter it, Green Bay does adore him. He does do things that their other receivers can't do. That is a lot going in his favor for sure.
Steve saying Green Bay is the fourth toughest schedule, tied with the Texans.
Yeah, I thought they were fifth, but like either way, yeah. And strength of schedule is one of those things that like it's easy to talk about in the offseason, but it's based upon last year's win-loss record, right? And how many of the teams that the Packers are going to play this year are incredibly different than they were last year. I know I said that they very well might lose to the Rams. Well, the Rams don't have Aaron Donald anymore. That is a big change for the Rams, right? There are things, Caleb Williams with the Bears, no matter how you think he's going to do, it's a big change. Kirk Cousins no longer with Minnesota, right? So like strength of schedule is this neat little tidbit, but does it matter all that much? Nah, because by the time we get a month into the season, it's all going to be pretty irrelevant, at least in my opinion.
Peter saying, although I'm a Jordan Love diehard fan since day one, I can't help but ask myself, does he really deserve such a huge contract over only 9 regular season wins?
Okay, so what I'll say is the Green Bay Packers will, now the overall valuation, sure, the sky high money, sure. They are not going to feel like they're locking into Jordan Love because of 9 regular season wins. They're going to look at the entire scope of how long they've known him, how long they've considered him to be an ascending player, right? The Jordan Love previous to last season, would he warrant $50 million? No, of course not. But in the Packers' calculations of comfort and projecting whether he will continue to ascend through the 5 years of the contract, they're basing it on how long they've known the guy, which is years, not just this last season. That's the icing on the cake from the Packers' perspective. And it's what warrants the high money. So, like, I understand the concern, but the Packers are going to have a longer lens that they're basing the contract on. But then, too, his 9 regular season wins are just even the back half of the year. We're talking about a guy, even for a half season, who do that over a whole year, and you are firmly in the MVP conversation.
Well, and you also have to look at the losses, and not every loss. I mean, I know it's a team sport and everything, but not all the losses were based on poor decision making or not being able to make a connection on Jordan Love's part.
That's true.
You know, there was a big stretch of the defense couldn't hold the teams, and there was there was a lot of different things that went into the losses. That sure, Jordan Love only got 9 wins, but you also have to look at the quality of play during those losses.
Well, and even the Pittsburgh game last year, we were talking about they're so close.
Yes.
Like if one more guy just runs the correct route, if Jordan just places the ball a little differently, the Packers are going to take all that into account too, because they're not just going to look at this like a season A and season B, where B, he was great, and A, he was awful. Like, no, he was pretty good all year. It's just things around him needed to start clicking. And yeah, he absolutely got better, especially in terms of ball placement, deep ball accuracy. No doubt he got better. But still, it's not like he went bad in the beginning of the year either. So it's just a very, very total. I understand the concern, but it is a much larger picture that they're banking the money on for sure.
Rocketney saying exactly, Watson is such a game changer. I wish the best for the guy.
Me too, right? As I think all Packer fans do, or at the very least should.
They should.
But yeah, he's just so unique in what he can offer the offense. And The guys with, like we talked about it, with relative athletic score, right? Guys like that don't grow on trees. He had one of the highest ever. So when you got them, you got to hope they stay healthy, and then you do lock them up if they prove they can be worthwhile. And this is a huge year for him, no doubt about it.
Steve saying Watson will be healthier this year with the new strength and conditioning coach on what he's doing.
I hope so, Steve. I really do. And we'll see, because we know during the second wave of the offseason program, they were really emphasizing stretching, right? A lot of beat reporters talked about how they were stretching more than they ever had under Chris Gizzi. We'll see if that remains. It's possible, pure speculation, it's possible Aaron Hill just takes the approach of like, hey, we don't know if these guys were like on a 3-day bender before coming in last night, so let's just stretch and take our time. And then as the season goes on, maybe then they reduce that. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just a core principle of his and they stay stretching like they are. We will see, but I certainly hope the best for Watson. No doubt about that.
Gypsy Mike saying, agree, John. If Watson is healthy, I think we'll have enough money to pay him, even if it's a 2-year extension, until we have to start paying some of the younger players like Reed, etc.
Yeah, I don't think, like, moving forward, obviously we got to see what the Jordan Love contract is, because how it's structured is going to be very important for the next 5 years of Packers cap availability. But with that being said, the Packers are in a pretty favorable position over the next half decade. The years of being up to the cap should now be predominantly behind us. They'll fill it back up. Don't get me wrong, but like for the first time, we now actually have some space. So Jordan Love will take up a chunk, but yes, if they want to pay Watson, they'll be able to. If they want to give a third contract to Kenny Clark, they'll be able to. They do have the means over the next couple of years to space these things out, no doubt.
Scott saying, hi, Jon and Claudia.
Hi, Scott.
Gypsy Mike saying, we can keep Love for 3 years, which he later corrects to 2 years, without giving him a contract, right? I would think we could maybe re-sign him and give him upfront money and give him a $45 million a year 4-year contract, so he's on first year now.
I think it is 3 years, Gypsy Mike, because you can do 2 franchise tags. It's just, especially for quarterbacks, the franchise tag is insane, especially that second year. So in theory, like what you're laying out, let's say Jordan says to the Packers right now, I do not want a contract now. I want other quarterbacks to get paid first so that I'm the last one and I get the most. So we're not going to talk anymore right now. And then they get into the season, right? And then it just sours around. Sure, at the end of the season, Jordan Love would technically become a free agent. The Packers would absolutely franchise him to retain his rights until they worked out a deal. Then it goes bad, right? They could franchise him again. That gives them ultimately 3 years of rights to Jordan Love. It is not going to come to that. Jordan Love wants to be a Green Bay Packer. The Packers want Jordan Love. This will get done. Like, there's no doubt about it. In terms of your idea about giving him upfront money, I think because they have the money in the next couple of years, I think they might do that anyway. I think we may see this more front-loaded than we ever saw the late end of career Rodgers contracts, where they were kicking as many dollars as they possibly could, as far away as they possibly could, so that they could spend money now and get a contender on the field. I think with Love, the situation is just a lot different. And we will see this done sooner rather than later. I'm not worried about it really at all.
Steve saying, so glad we got rid of Gizzy. I feel this team would be healthier and stronger and able to stay on their feet. Where are you going? Yeah.
I will say, like, granted, I don't know. We haven't been to the practices, right? But obviously LaFleur felt like it was time for a change. Obviously, some of the things, is it Gizzy's fault? I don't know. But the Packers did certainly have their fair share of soft tissue injuries that just could not get solved. And eventually, that does fall on the guy who's in charge of stretching and in charge of telling the guys what muscle to go work on so they can get back on the field. Like, eventually, it does roll downhill to that guy. So we'll see. You know, San Francisco has had their own injury problems over the years, and now they're bringing in their assistant to run the program. We'll see. We'll see. I'm obviously very, very hopeful, Steve, but who knows?
Hello, Wisco Fanatics. How you doing?
Hey.
How many players the Packers have on rookie deals they could sign Love and front load his deal, and in 2 to 3 years be able to keep more guys and sign others?
1,000%. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Right as you say, front loaded. Yeah. I would not be shocked at all because the Packers do have that availability in 2025. If we see some high compensation for Jordan over the next couple of years, and then have it kind of lessen as the years go on. The thing that's going to get really interesting, in my opinion, just to add to that, and we did see this with Rodgers a little bit over the years, is in front loading a deal. Are we suddenly going to get to year 4 of a 5-year Jordan Love contract? And Jordan Love now ranks 22nd out of all QBs in the NFL in terms of compensation this year. Does that then have them have to have a talk again because all the big money already got paid? The Packers are going to sit there and go, dude, we paid you. Like, we paid you $80 million 2 years ago. He's going to go, yeah, but I'm 22nd this year. Like, we did see that with Rodgers a little bit. And so that's kind of the psychological concern, I guess I would say, with front loading is, would that become a little thing in a couple of years? We'll find out.
Peter's saying, I heard Marshawn Lloyd was Dallas Cowboys' top draft prospect to replace Tony Pollard. The more I think about it, the more I like it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, supposedly Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy were very, very high on Marshawn Lloyd. I think there's actually been, I didn't think anyone actually said it, but I think like it's been alluded to that Lloyd was their number 1 running back in the draft. And then Green Bay just snatched him. Green Bay also snatched Jordan Morgan right before Dallas wanted him in round 1 since they traded back. So we talked at the watch parties about how like people are sniping our picks right in front of us. Turns out we did it to Dallas quite a few times.
Scott saying, how many games will Carlson cost us this year?
Oh, Scott. I mean, we'll see if he's the kicker. I think he's going to be the kicker. And you want an official prediction? No. It's not just him missing a kick that would cost the game. There'll be several things over there, but like how many kicks? 2. Steve.
How did the Packers end up with a tougher schedule than the rest of the division?
Well, generally speaking, like I don't have the Lions, Vikings, Bears schedule offhand, but generally speaking, roster or schedule construction. You've obviously got your division games, right? Just like they would have. But then the rest of the schedule is made up by you essentially through the years go through different divisions. Okay, so like the Packers, this is their year to go through. Let's see, not the East. This is their year to go through the NFC West. Okay. And then the way that it works in terms of your other opponents is they generally match up like who finished second in the North versus who finished second in the NFC East for a random game that needs to fill on the schedule. And then they go head to head. So like the Bears for those games that aren't within the division or the division that they're assigned, the Bears would face off against oftentimes the 4th place team from the division that they're filling in the schedule with. The Packers, being better over the last several years, would have the better teams. That's ultimately a very, very simplistic, like that's how they break it down. And that's how the better teams wind up with oftentimes better teams going against them. Oh, yeah. Scott had to. I know Scott.
Steve saying, John, on his question, if you take a good look at this team, how much better do you think we've gotten? Steve says, a lot better.
Yeah. Overall, yes, the Packers have gotten a lot better. However, so much depends on the defense. If you ask me, in my full-blown homer opinion, the Packers are finally doing the type of defense that their personnel has been yearning for, that Gutekunst has been drafting for a number of years. Like, finally, the defense looks like what the Packers have been aiming to get to for years. But we don't know with 1,000% certainty, is it going to work? Now, if they change over the defense as much as they possibly are, and schematically turn it on its head and it still fails, then we're going to have to start having some real conversations about, are the way that the Packers acquire defensive players, is it wrong? Are they just bad at drafting defensive talent? Because we now have seen one end of the spectrum and it sucked. Now we went to the other end of the spectrum and it still sucked. Something here fundamentally is wrong, and it must be player acquisition if all of the coaches are different, if all this. So that's what I'm saying, is if this defense, again, fails to live up expectations, then there are some real conversations to be had front office side. If, however, the defense works to the level that we believe it can, then the Packers have gotten dramatically better. Offensively, they should naturally ascend as the players are aging. Second year in scheme for a bunch of them. LaFleur more comfortable calling for these players. That'll mean a lot. The offense should be dramatically more in sync from the get-go. And defensively, there will be ups and downs. But if it can come as advertised, then it should be way better than it was last year. Thus, ending with a much, much better team.
Peter saying, I had a dream. Edgerrin Cooper's going to be close to being Defensive Rookie of the Year next season. Agree?
I could see it. I could see it because he is so explosive. He is going to see the field a lot. And just given his athletic traits and in this defense where he's going to be allowed to crash down and not have to read like Quay's been doing for years, we'll get some nice highlights for Edgerrin Cooper as well, which certainly should help in the Rookie of the Year conversation, right? Only concern with Edgerrin Cooper, and it's been my concern all along, is pairing him with Quay. You're going to have a good amount of reckless abandon out there at linebacker. And sometimes that might go bad. Sometimes Edgerrin Cooper, just like we've seen with Quay, is going to pursue a guy who is much faster than the kind that he went against in college and go fail. If there's that many failures, if he has a rough adjustment, then no, Cooper will not be. But if it's not that way, then yeah, absolutely, I could see it. I don't even think that's wishful thinking. If he is the impact he's capable of, I think it's genuinely possible.
Gypsy Mike saying, with the quality players we had, the new players we have, and switching to a better 4-3 scheme, I think we roll into the year with top 5 defense.
I'll give you top 10. I feel comfortable saying top 10, assuming it works. Top 5, tall order, my friend. I don't know as if they're going to get quite that high. Because keep in mind, even if the defense works, in some places, it is still a very youthful defense, just like the offense. I mean, keep in mind, you got Jair at one spot on the corner, right? The other corner spot, Carrington Valentine should be a fantastic fit for this defense with this press man. Or maybe they go with Stokes. And if Stokes is healthy enough to edge out Carrington Valentine, okay, then they probably have a competent corner opposite Jair. You're still looking at Stokes or Valentine. It's not jaw opposite jaw, right? Plus, you got a rookie at your second safety spot. You've got a rookie starting at linebacker. And the defensive line has always been a question mark. They should be better this year, totally. It doesn't change the fact that it's still a little bit of a question mark. Plus, schematically, run defense should be helped by linebackers and defensive linemen now being allowed to crash down as opposed to read. But that is just about the only improvement that they've attempted to make on the run defense side. They didn't go out and get some run-stuffing extraordinaire defensive tackle. So, is it really going to be better? Yet to be determined. So, top 10, I can get with you totally. Top 5, in year 1, that may be pushing the limit.
Rockney's asking, what are your expectations of this defense then? Top 5 or top 10? Interception and turnover lead or stop the run?
Okay, so to go with the back end of the question, interception and turnovers. Yeah, they're going to go up for sure. We're going to see 2 really key statistics go up for the Packers defense in my mind this year. 1, turnovers, pass deflections, interceptions, forced fumbles, all going up. All the good stuff going up. We are also going to see big plays allowed go up. And of course, that's the make or break, right? So I would say, like I just said, top 10. I'm riding the hype. I think that's very achievable. Turnovers, etc., they should be much higher than they were last year. In year one, top 5, that feels a little ambitious for my taste.
Steve's saying, are you guys going to any games this year? You should go to Brazil and hold Steve, we're right here.
Man,
Steve, I thought you were getting us a hot air.
Yeah, we are more than likely not going to any games this year because we're going to be here doing watch parties. We're probably, I don't know, we haven't talked about it yet, but probably just like we did last year, probably like 14 of the 17 games. Of course, we'll determine that as we get closer. But we'll be here for
I should
every game.
Be able to attend most
a lot of them, yeah.
And not come halfway through for a lot of them.
That's low, at least in the second half of the year. So yeah, we're not planning on going to any. We're going to be here for the vast majority of them. What we'll probably do is still take off a couple of games. Like, it is very important to me, just like it was last year. It's very important to me that I don't broadcast for a game and I just get to watch a game with my dad, just like I was growing up. So going to do that for a week for sure. And then Thanksgiving, just like last year, we host Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We're not doing a watch party on Thanksgiving.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to have a lot of people here.
That'd be a lot of background noise.
Yeah, but no, we'll be right here. I will say though, your anecdote about like hold up a sign that says Steve, we're here totally reminds me of Boy Meets World when like Sean went to the Super Bowl and then the Matthews family was watching the Super Bowl and they're like, he did it. Like, totally reminds me of that. Scott, not acceptable. Need to cover all. No, no, it's we might do 15 this year. I don't know. We got to compare our family schedule with that schedule, but like 14 is a pretty safe bet, but we'll be here vast majority of the time. No doubt about it. And with that, wait, sneaking in one. Packers Kingdom saying,
I hope this defense gets at it and let's make it work. If Jordan Love gets a defense, it's all bad for the North and others. That's right.
And those MVP odds for Jordan Love. It feels weird to say it, but if the Packers have a defense, the MVP odds for Jordan Love get better and better. Like, no doubt about it. No doubt. Exactly. Complimentary football would win the day for the Packers, for sure. Gypsy Mike sneaking in one more. Then we got to jump.
Read and react 3-4. I think Clark and Van Ness get more pressures and sacks. And with the speed and physicality of our safeties and linebackers, we'll be better at stopping the run, which means no interceptions.
Right. Okay. So keep in mind more interceptions.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Now I'm with you.
Okay.
Van Ness totally should be more productive this year than he was last. That probably will come at the expense of a little bit of Preston Smith productivity, but I think Preston Smith is still going to do great. He was a 4.3 end in college. He'll be great again this year. I have no doubt about that.
Preston Smith.
Yeah, exactly. He'll have a very quiet 8 sacks. And then Kenny Clark, I mean, he did just set a career high last year in sacks. So I think we'll see potentially his pressure number go up. Anytime you ask a guy to upend a career high is a tall order. But I think overall the defensive line should be significantly more penetrating than we have seen in recent years. And that is going to be so much fun to watch. No doubt about it. And then Rocket Knees, we will enjoy Bear Misery. Go Pack Go. Have a good one. And Packers Kingdom, Bears still suck. And with that note, it is time for us to jump on out of here. Thanks so much for joining us on this beautiful Friday. If you're anywhere where the weather is nice, I do hope you get outside, but have a fantastic weekend. Monday, going to be talking about players that need to show up in OTAs. I'm not talking about like their physical presence. I'm saying players with something to earn at these offseason categories. Also going to cover like which players have clauses to be there, etc. That's going to come out Monday afternoon, and then we'll be live next Wednesday, and then we're on vacation for a few days. So and whether there's any content coming out or not, of course, I will be posting and updating all of you about that. So thanks so much for being here. Do hope you have a wonderful weekend in every single way. And as always, go Pack Go.